Wonderful. All right, we are live and recording. Oops, there we go. Wonderful. Okay, before we get any further, I would like to acknowledge our first peoples and their traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet, and which we all meet. We may be on different lands at this point in time, and pay our respects to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country, and recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. So let's jump into this. What is student representation? Now, there's quite a lot of words there, but basically student representation is amplifying the student voice through active engagement on committees, boards, and advisory groups. And we do that by working closely with staff members in a positive and mutually respectful way to proactively shape and impact decision-making at UQ. So we're basically looking at being a bridge between the larger student voice and the places where decisions are being made, and doing that through collaborating respectfully and positively with the staff that we have on those committees, boards, and advisory groups here at UQ. So what does that mean for the purpose of a student representative? Broadly speaking, we're looking at things that improve the student experience through partnership and helping to create solutions to problems. Student reps obviously represent, so you're representing your peers or your fellow classmates' views and opinions, providing positive and negative feedback to staff, and acting as a communication channel between staff and students. And that's in a really dynamic sort of way. It can be different for different committees. There's not a one size fits all. So yeah, you'll probably recognize that in this training. It seems a bit broad, but that's because we've got so many different, different things that kind of have to fit into this. And hopefully what you'll get out of it is some really key principles that help you to sort of tailor what your type of representation is for your committee, for your advisory group, for your context and your faculty or school. So just keep that in the back of your mind that, these are principles and these are things that you can sort of pull out the key things that are important for you to make it work for you in your context. So student representation at UQ is about embodying and expanding these values of student-staff partnership, which you can see there is collaboration, creativity, engaged community, growth, and respect. And so in a broad sense, the SSP program seeks to empower students and staff to collaborate as equal partners and mutual learners, and facilitate opportunities to connect diverse voices, skills, and talents with the UQ community to enhance the experience of university for everybody, students and staff alike. So in everything that we do as student reps, we're trying to keep these values, pretty central to everything that we're doing: collaboration, creativity, engaged community, growth, and respect, because we want these values to expand beyond just student representation and voice, and to be just business as usual for everything we do at university. Whether you're a student, whether you're a staff member, whether you're a program coordinator. So keep those in the back of your mind with everything that you're doing in your student representation activities. And if you're ever in a situation where you see somebody, especially a staff member, who's not acting to enhance or embody these values, please reach out to someone and make sure that that gets known, because unless we call out bad behaviors, things aren't going to change. So that's something that we can all be working on together. Who am I representing? This can be a tricky one, because you could see yourself as one student in amongst a broader set of students, and you can't always know exactly what's going on in everybody's minds. But at the same time, you are the subject matter expert of your own experience. And you have your social networks and your class and learning networks, and you can reach out and you can talk to people. We will be going into this a bit more in depth in a later part of the training, but I actually just wanted to get Brooke to speak to us at this point. And Brooke is a very experienced student rep. She's been in this space for over 5 years here at UQ. Yeah, and a couple of cool little things about Brooke. At the moment, we are actually working together on a project called Overcoming Barriers to Volunteering, and that includes student rep. Volunteering is a bit of a catch-all for any volunteer involving programs here at UQ. And she's also in the middle of writing her honours thesis titled The Imaginary of the Nikkei in Peru. So that's to just give you a little bit of an intro. I'm actually going to stop sharing so that you can actually see Brooke's wonderful face. So just let me do that. And Brooke, can you talk to us a little bit, please, about this idea of who am I representing as a student rep? And yeah, what has your experience been of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what you said when you started off with that. You're an expert in your own experience. You're an expert in a student. You've lived as a student and you know what it's like. But I think a lot of people can really get stuck in these areas where you just ask your friends, all of your friends are having the same issue, or your friends aren't having the same issue, and therefore it's not an issue to you. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what that looks like, what the impacts of that are, and how you can actually overcome that. So basically, I'll throw a few examples out for things that I've experienced in my time as a student rep, where the way we have communicated with those around us has made a bit of an echo chamber and hasn't allowed us to actually, improve the processes. So one example I always like to give is the beginning of the Student Staff Partnership projects. They're amazing and I love them. But at the very beginning, part of that learning curve was actually deciding to diversify who came on board as a student partner. So what was happening at the beginning is, picking the GPA 7s, the really academic types, and they were coming in to fix courses that had low pass rates or had bad ratings in the evaluation, and nothing was improving, because you're asking people who are already benefiting and already doing really well how to make it better for people who are not them or not in their circles. And that improved significantly when they took the GPA requirement off of the application form. That was me. And another example of what that can look like is in the School of Cultures and Languages, you have the option to write a thesis in another language. And in the past, it was actually campaigned for that if you did it in another language, the word count would be lower because of the time you have to spend, writing, checking, translating, and all of that. But the students who campaigned for this were in a specific language where that did help them. But other people in languages that are longer, such as French and Spanish, that actually really disadvantages people because you have to use more small words. So what happened here was that they didn't communicate from people in other parts of the school and ask them what their opinions were and what they needed. So I think from those examples, you can kind of see what happens if you only ask your immediate circle. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And in that case, you have to think like, who are you representing? Because if you're the school representative, the board representative, like, are you, is kind of the question. And it's easy to just say like, go and talk to people and just go out. But that can be really daunting, especially if you're not, really extroverted person. Mm-hmm. But there are some really easy ways, such as people use Stalker Space all the time just to ask people's opinions or what they feel, if you're comfortable doing that. You also can attend some of your school or faculty events and just really be a part of the community. And another thing we've done in the past is as student reps from the same faculty, for example, we'll host an event where you can come and chat to your student reps casually. So we'll just have some free like snacks or something, and you can come and sit with us on the Great Court. So that works depending on who you are, what your style of communication is. But the main thing is you need to be available and you need to also be reaching out. That can include reaching out to the UQ Union, especially the diversity collectives. You can ask and check about what you're doing and if they need your support.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Brooke. Yeah, I think that helps to give a bit of, a broader idea of what what we mean by representation, because it is a layered word, it is a layered concept. And what we're going to go through next is some of these things that Brooke has touched on, of making yourself available, and some of the different resources and channels that are available to you here at UQ to access, so that you can be more representative of your cohorts and the different levels of cohorts that we do represent in this space. So
anything for me to add, or you're
does anybody have any specific questions for?
There is a question in the chat
Yeah.
about UQ Stalker Space. Does that mean it is okay to host voting polls on UQ Stalker Space?
Look, we do not run the Stalker Space page, so I think if it's okay by the rules of that page, that's fine. I think people have done it before.
People do it a lot because that's the easiest way to ask everyone.
Yeah, it is a pretty good temperature gauge, at least.
Yeah.
And you can then use it as anecdotal evidence, or something to at least direct other questions that you might ask in a more formal way to your cohort.
Yeah, and in the past, I've experienced something personally and gone, oh, does anyone else experience that? And none of my close circle have. I've put it on Stalker Space, and then I've been able to get, names of people's experiences directly. So by reaching out, so that's a good use for it. But again, if you're comfortable like reaching out that way, but you can just get someone else to post or something as well.
Yeah, great.
Thanks,
Brooke. All right. We might just go back to the presentation now, because as I mentioned, we're going to expand on some of these ideas about participation and making yourself available and accessible to your cohorts. So let me just do that. Over, great, cool. Oh, and I will just flag, Brooke has given up her time, and we really value that. And she's actually got to run off sort of soonish, about 12:30, to go to another appointment. So if you see that she's disappeared at some point in the next few minutes, that is why. But we just appreciate you, Brooke, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. That makes it less awkward when I get you back out.
Okay, where are we here? Move on to the next slide, please. There we go. Oops, we've jumped. Okay, so to make this really practical, we're going to talk about how to participate in a committee or advisory group, go through some of those, just really practical things, and then look a bit broader about like engaging with the student voice. So this might sound super boring, but it is a question that comes up semi-regularly, and that is, what is the difference between a student representative and a student advisor? Because you may hear those terms used pretty interchangeably, and that is because the groups that they participate in seem to sort of operate similarly, but there's actually key differences. And I just wanted to point that out so that people can understand the different, objectives of a committee versus a student advisory group. And as you can see from these lovely diagrams that I spent way too long on, that a student representative is like the middle person, that bridge between the committee, which is appointed by the university to carry out a particular function, to discuss issues, and then bring them back to a broader committee or a broader function of the university, to act as that bridge between, yes, that committee and then the broader student body that are impacted by the decisions being made by that committee. So there's sort of like that bridge element. And then in a student advisory group, there is a selection of diverse students that might come together around a common interest topic. And there's a staff member who is there to basically just understand what students are talking about, what they feel about a particular issue. For example, there are student advisory groups around like age-friendly universities. What does it mean for somebody who is not an immediate graduate from high school to participate in a place that tends to really focus on high school graduates, even though like we've got a really significant portion of the population who are not those kinds of students. And so what is that experience like for students? And in that case, there would be like one or possibly two staff members who sit and listen and talk with students about this, and then come up with plans and different things that they could do that basically makes those students' experience heard and valued, and then that can influence positive change at the program and course and school and faculty level, even though it may not necessarily be something that's directly related to the academic functions of our schools and faculties. So I hope that kind of helps to differentiate a little bit of the different focus and the different way that the committee versus the advisory group operates, and like how they come into being. For example, the committees exist because the university is mandated to carry out certain functions. Therefore, they have to do that through people. We want student voice to be heard there. We need a student representative. On the other hand, there may be the topic, students come together around it, staff need to hear what students say about it, and then they distill that and bring it back to areas where they can make improvements to the way that courses and programs are run. If you have questions, we can get to them in a second, or you can hold it till the end where we can talk about it in a bit more depth. But moving on, overview of UQ committees. So there are hundreds of committees at UQ. It is a very committee heavy place, as you would understand, because there are so many different functions that it carries out. Usually online you can find different information about these committees. It's admittedly not always that easy, just because of the large and sprawling nature of the UQ website. I think Emily has just posted a link there that might be helpful if you wanted to just have a look at a bit more of the background and like the terms of reference for different committees that you might have heard of. But some things to be aware of is that every committee will have a chair and a secretary, and then there'll be other positions that are basically ex officio, which means that these positions have to be filled because of the people that are in them. Thanks, Brooke. Bye. But the hot tip that you can see there is that you need to get to know your committee secretary, as they're the ones who are the gatekeepers of all the communication that go in and out of your committee. So if you don't know who that person is, I really encourage you to find out who they are and to get to know them. Even set up a meeting and have a conversation. Let them know that you want to be kept informed. Let them know when you've got questions. They're going to be a great source of help and an ally for you in that. Okay, student advisory groups. So as I said before, they're primarily made up of students and student-led, giving feedback to staff. Oops, I keep on doing that. About their experiences or advice around a particular issue that is outside of maybe the academic focus. There's always scope to add more student advisory groups to what we do here at UQ, because we find them so valuable as an open space for students to come and share and bounce ideas off each other, and for staff maybe to take a bit more of a back seat and let the students lead the conversation and really take it in the direction that they want it to go. So if you've got an idea, or if you know that there's a particular issue that is maybe not being addressed, and it's outside, it has to be outside the area of direct academia, anything to do with like student life and experience on campus is really what we're looking at there. So could be to do with employability, could be to do with diversity and inclusion, it could be to do with community building, yeah, those are just the ones that are coming off the top of my head, but there's yeah, lots of scope there to have more student voice heard about the issues that matter to you guys. Okay, so how do I actually participate in a meeting? So the way that committee and in most of the advisory group situations as well, this is mostly how it would run. There is an initial call for agenda items, and that comes to you from the secretary. So you send through your agenda item and you basically yeah, let them know what it is that you've got to talk about, give it a bit of detail. And yeah, if you want to make a PowerPoint presentation or have handouts or any other reference material, you send that back when they call for agenda items. Then the final agenda is created and sent by the secretary. So read through that and see what everybody else has got to talk about, see where your item has been put in the meeting, in the plan for the meeting. And yeah, be prepared, write some points that you want to speak to or questions that you might want to ask, so that when you rock up at the meeting, which is the next part, you have got something to say and you know that you've done your work and you can participate effectively. It says remain calm there because there tends to be a fair bit of anxiety that students tend to report back when they're yeah, in that situation, because it does sometimes feel like, you know, you're the minority, which you are because you're probably the only student in the room, unless it's a there's some committees where they have 2 student representatives, maybe an undergrad and a postgrad. But just know that the community actually wants to hear your voice, because students are the reason why we do what we do here, and why, you know, the university exists is to create more change agents who are you guys, students. So yeah, remain calm, know that you've done your preparation, and when the time comes, just be yeah, on point and ask your question or add to the discussion as you see fit. And then after the meeting, yeah, close the feedback loop to do with whatever your agenda item was that you brought up. Yeah, if you've been sort of talking and canvassing students, maybe you've done a survey, let them know what's happening and what the follow-up actions from that meeting will be, so that, yeah, that feedback loop is closed and students know that there's been value in talking to you and sharing their opinions, because it's actually gone somewhere where something can be done. Okie dokes. What kind of issues can I influence? This is kind of focused on committees and sort of the academic side of things. So you can see that, yeah, curriculum, learning resources, learning and teaching processes, assessment and feedback, student progression and achievement, guidance and support, quality enhancement and assurance. And that's all pretty focused on that student learning experience. As I said before, in the student advisory group context, that could be a really broad thing. So yeah, there's a whole range of things that you can be thinking, or lenses that you can be thinking through about how you can help to give feedback, ask questions, and yeah, represent your cohort really well in those spaces. And just to cap that section off, oh, we're doing things out of order here. Some top tips to basically guide you as you're preparing for and participating in committee and student advisory meetings is that, first of all, building a good relationship with, yeah, your chair and your secretary is going to be super, super helpful and just make the whole experience so much more positive. Be prepared, make sure you've done your homework, make sure you've read the papers, don't rock up and try and wing your way through it. It's going to be no value to you or anybody else. If you've submitted an agenda item, it can be really helpful to just talk it through with a staff ally. Maybe that's the secretary, maybe there's somebody else that you've identified on the committee who is, yeah, somebody that you can talk to about this kind of stuff and get their feedback and support, so that you're not, yeah, basically speaking into a, what's the word, like a cold room, if you like. There's somebody there who's already like, yeah, I know what you're on about and I'm here to support you. Always introduce yourself as the student representative for XYZ when you're sending an email, so that staff know who you are and that you're there to be the student voice. I find that really helpful, and I've had feedback from student reps that, oh, like I sent an email, but I didn't get, maybe the response that I was looking for. And I said, oh, do they know that you're the student rep? Because there can sometimes be a little bit of a disconnect between, like the secretary and the chair may know exactly who you are, but not everybody else does. So if you're sending emails, make sure you always introduce yourself. And then in that first meeting, make sure you introduce yourself as well. But hopefully the secretary or the chair has already done that. Just be courteous, okay? Let the secretary know if you can't attend, and if you've got contributions, send them through either before or after. Or if you're in the position where you can send someone in your place, do that as well. If you can make it, arrive on time, don't make people wait for you. And these are just really, self-explanatory ones. Pay attention, be active, put your phone away unless that's how you're taking notes, and just make sure that people know that, and just be polite and respectful. It's in there because, we've had feedback that, sometimes this can be a space where that doesn't happen. And we want to make sure that we're encouraging people to be, promoting and embodying those values that we talked about at the beginning of collaboration, community engagement, respect, and growth. Okay, so now we get to the student voice side of things, how to engage with the student voice. And you may be wondering, okay, what do we actually mean by this concept of student voice? And it's a really good question. It doesn't really have a straightforward answer, unfortunately, because it's a big term and it means different things for different people. But the way that I'm going to define it here for us, and the outcomes and the I guess goals and the aims of being a student rep or a student advisor, is that the student voice includes and refers to any instance of a member of the student body making their opinion known, their involvement, experiences, or ideas on any issue relating to their experiences or expectations as a student. So that means conversations that you're having. It could be in formal or informal context that you can engage with student voice. So it's kind of like this big abstract concept, but it's you and it's your friends and it's your cohort and what you are thinking and feeling and experiencing at any particular point of your learning journey. Cool. So this kind of refers back a little bit to what Brooke was talking about before in valuing diverse voices. So we don't want to end up in the situation where we are an echo chamber and just getting the same types of people talking about the same issues and not hearing from our diverse and very varied student population that we have. So this means that it's up to our student reps and our student advisors, as well as obviously all of our staff. Like, we should all be wanting to hear from people of all different levels and backgrounds and experiences, so that we can authentically represent the broader community and the broader voice to these smaller parts of the unity that are dealing with those particular functions, which are the committee or the advisory groups. Because this is really important. By hearing from diverse voices, we strengthen our decision-making procedures and foster inclusion. And remember that you're not doing this alone, which takes us to this bigger picture that we're part of as student reps and student advisors. There's a lot of different ways that we try to engage with the student voice at UQ. And my passion, obviously, hopefully is coming across, is this area of student representation. We want to hear more from our student reps because you guys are a direct bridge to the wider student voice. So that's super important. Obviously, the UQ Union and its collectives are extremely important and powerful in this space. So reach out to them, or if you're already part of the union or members of the collectives, that's awesome. You've got access there to such a wealth of experiences and resources and other people who are thinking through issues that are affecting you in similar ways or more diverse ways that we can, bring together to be that authentic representative. Student experience surveys, you guys would have probably heard that the National Student Safety Survey the results of that were released this week. That's super powerful way that we can engage with the student voice. And it's really great when student reps are across information like that, because it gives you, I guess, extra perspective and context to bring to committees or advisory groups when you're talking through the issues that are coming up. Focus groups and student forums, we're going to touch on these a bit more later, but they're just great, great opportunities, I guess, to get bigger groups of students together in one place to ask these questions and get on the spot feedback from them. Advocacy networks like the AAN, and AAN stands for Academic Advocacy Network, which is part of the UQ Union as well, and that is a collective or a network of student reps that are trained in particular ways by the union and have access to a lot of different support systems and things. And yeah, it's great for us to be working together with them. They're a particular kind of rep, and we work alongside them as sort of, I guess a bit more free in our associations, and that's cool. Clubs and societies are a great way to be connected in with the student voice around, obviously discipline specific and interest specific issues, and you can gauge a lot of information informally and formally from those places. And then obviously just, the conversations that you're having in your lectures and student services appointments, these can be formal or informal. So I just want to say all of that to let you guys know that you are not the only person that's being relied on to get the student voice to hear and to feed back into these channels. It's being part of a bigger picture, and I think that's really encouraging, and that's really helpful to know that we do have these resources and these support systems that we can also team up with in whatever our issue is that we're dealing with or trying to gauge more student voice on. So
quick question, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
How do we contact the Academic Advocacy Network? Have they got an email or something?
Yes, they do. And thank you for asking that. At the end of the presentation, there will be I'll share a slide that has got a list of really helpful contacts, and the UQ VP for the Academic Advocacy Network is listed there. So that will come at the end. But I think also, Emily, have you shared the URL for the AAN there as well? Did I?
I have, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, if you click on that URL, it will take you to their landing page, and it has all of the information there and the contacts as well. So
I don't know if anyone else is having an issue, but I clicked on it and it led nowhere. So I don't know.
Oh no, okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Maybe it's my computer though.
Okay, no worries. Well, even if you just Google UQU AAN, you'll get that.
Is that Samara? I'm pretty sure I know her.
Yeah.
Cool.
Samara. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thank you for those questions. Okay, we touched on this a little bit before, but just going a little bit deeper about fostering diversity and inclusion. You guys, as student reps and student advisors, can be part of this by speaking up if you feel like there is a cohort of students that's maybe not getting recognised or not getting the representation that they need. You can ask for the student rep numbers in your cohort or in your committee to be increased so that you can get that more authentic representation. As I just mentioned before, reach out to the union, reach out to the collectives and the advocacy networks, and engage with clubs and societies. So those are 3 things I just wanted to pull out as really easy and actionable accessible items that you could possibly do to make sure that you're getting that authentic representation by fostering diversity and inclusion. Okay, so getting a bit more practical now of how to actually engage with the student voice. Not to surprise you or anything, but this means that you actually have to make yourself available and accessible to other students. And there are some really simple ways that we can do this. So I've listed a few of them, and we're going to go into them a bit more in depth. Creating a rep profile, getting listed on the student reps directory, introducing yourself in classes, engaging with your cohort online, and using the networks that you already have. So what do we mean when we say create a rep profile? Basically, you could put together, say, a PowerPoint slide or any kind of, it could be a social media tile that basically is a little profile of who you are, what you're representing, sorry, and possibly what you're studying, so that people go, okay, this person is actually associated with my school or faculty, or like is actually, part of the UQ student cohort. And then you can share that either on your own personal pages or on something like Stalkerspace, or if you've got a social media platform for your school or your faculty, you could share it there. If you don't have access to that yourself, send it through to your faculty admin and find out who's in charge of that and get them to help you and to share that. Or it could just be straight up an email. If you don't have access to all of the students in your cohort, again, reach out to the faculty administration and they will be able to help you. If you get pushback from it, reach out to your secretary and say, look, I want to be a better and more authentic representative of my cohort, and make sure that those doors get open for you. And you can see here, there's a few that have been done. Some faculties like HAS even have like a student reps page where they have that information all there and ready. But if you take the initial step of putting that together and providing it to whoever your secretary or your school of faculty staff are, you've already like 4 steps ahead. So that's really helpful and a great and just really straightforward way of getting yourself out there. The student reps directory, this is something that I was working on last year. It's a work in progress still, but the good thing about it is that it exists and it is something that you can be part of by getting yourself listed as under whatever your faculty or area of representation is, as a quick one-stop shop for a student. Maybe they're in like the School of Engineering and they're trying to get in touch with somebody about maybe like something that's gone on in a particular course, something around assessment. I need to talk to somebody. Who's my rep in this area? They can click on the EAT student reps. They can scroll through, they can see who's the rep for that particular school or course, click on them and then be able to reach out to them via email. So if that's something that you want to be part of, we'd really love to be able to fill it out so that it's got as up-to-date information as possible with the most reps as possible. You can scan that little QR code there and that will take you to a data consent form that you can fill out to basically share that information and share your consent for that information, because we can't do anything obviously without that initial consent. And also you can just go to the URL, which I think Emily just provided helpfully for us, to see who else is listed and to see that there are some gaps there that need to be filled. So I would love to be able to log off this meeting and in a couple of hours see a few new submissions to that form that I can then upload to the directory. Other ways that you can connect with students is by identifying your existing networks. We've mentioned clubs and societies. In your classes, you could ask your lecturer about having a few minutes either at the start or end of a lecture to introduce yourself to your classmates, let them know what it is that you're doing, what you're representing, and how what they can talk to you about. If you're participating in extracurricular activities or interest groups, just chat with people, ask them what their experiences have been like. Get talking about these issues that are affecting everyone and or affecting those particular groups. Get people talking about this stuff. And then obviously you can connect with other student reps and also the student staff partnership communities in communities of practice. That's a great way to get involved with people and get their opinions, be talking about this stuff.
Two questions for you.
Yes. Yep.
One, with the email, the UQ email, can we add like that we're a student rep on the bottom there somehow? To help us when we're directly emailing people?
Oh yeah, in your email signature?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really great,
Is that
suggestion. I should add that in.
Is that IT?
100%.
IT
Sorry,
does
say
that?
again.
Is that IT that helps with that, or can we Google that? You think?
That's a good
I have
question.
no idea how to
So
do
Or
it.
I
you could
can,
create your own.
it's, you can do it just in your Outlook. So if you go File and to Options under Mail, you can edit your signatures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks,
Um,
Emily.
Okay.
And the other question is, you said connect with student reps. Do you guys have any networking events or anything?
We're working on it. Yeah, we're looking at working with the AAN to create a couple of different opportunities for student reps to network and come together.
Be awesome.
So that'll be coming out imminently with a few different events that will be available to you guys to connect with. So thanks for asking those questions. Okay, some other practical steps that you could take to connect with students online is to, like was mentioned before, a Facebook poll, Instagram polls. Also get involved with your faculties online. And if you don't have a faculty page, maybe that could be one of your projects to start one. Another thing that you may have engaged with is Miro boards, Jamboards, or Padlets, and they're great ways that you can basically create an online whiteboard, if you like, that people can put their ideas or feedback up online. They can do it anonymously, and then you've got sort of like a bit of a temperature gauge around a particular issue of how people are feeling about stuff. So I've got a couple of examples there, like a sense of belonging or like experience of online learning, and that could be something that you're sharing either via email or on the social media pages and stuff like that. But just some different strategies, different ways, like you can figure out what works best for you in your context. But these are just some examples of things that students have done previously that have had good results. So if you don't know what a Miro board, a Jamboard, or a Padlet is, I would say Google it, because it'll be much better to understand it from actually seeing it than what I could describe.
Sorry to interrupt, Alex. Jack's just wondering, should we appeal purely to our faculty, example, only students who are doing a language, to the school languages committee, or to a broader audience?
That's a really great question. I think it depends what your issue is. If it's something that only relates to, for example, the School of Languages and Cultures, then definitely take it to that committee. If it's something that's probably wider and it's external to just that group of students, then you could take it up the next level. I would say, like, whatever committee you're participating in, like, that would be a great starting place to either gauge what the feedback is, or that might be the next references. Oh, actually, this is outside of our area of focus. You could take it to the next level. So I think, think about what cohort it is that is being affected by this issue. Ask your faculty allies or secretary, is this something that I should bring up here, or is there another area that this could go to? So hopefully that helps to give you a bit of a couple of principles of, like, just to filter, okay, what is this issue and who's it affecting, and then where to go from there. But that's a great question, thank you. Okay, so we talked about, like, engaging with the student voice, but how do we actually collect the opinions of our peers? So I'm just going to really high level go over a couple of different different examples, and I'm really sorry, guys, I'm rushing a little bit just because we've got like 10 minutes left, and I really want to make sure that we get to the end of all the slides. And I will just say, I'm going to share a link to a video that was created by the SSP team. It's a little bit, I think it was from 2020, so it is a little bit older, but this idea of, like, collecting feedback from students it's still the same, it's still relevant. So I'm going to go really quickly over these examples, and then I'll link you to that video, which goes much more in depth. And if this is something that you want to look into more and get more information and advice about, that video is going to be really helpful, and you can go through it in your own time. You can watch it at 2 times speed if you want to get through it even quicker. So online surveys, you may recognize the SurveyMonkey logo, and more recently the Qualtrics logo. So online surveys are great, but also students have survey fatigue because everybody wants to know your opinion, and surveys are like a really easy way to do it. But being a student rep, if you're the one who's doing it and you're the one who's sending it out, your cohort's going to be more inclined, hopefully, to reply to it because you're a fellow student and you're trying to help them get a better student experience and represent the issues that are relevant and that they're facing. So a couple of tips there: make sure that your questions are short and clear and are not leaning one way or the other. We would say limit the length of the survey. I would say 5 minutes is probably even too long. If you want actual engagement, I would sort of keep it within sort of like 3 to 4 minutes max. And sometimes just saying, please participate in this 3-question survey is really helpful, or this 2-minute survey. So that students are like, oh, okay, like I've got 2 minutes now, that's fine. But if it's like, fill out this survey and there's no like specific information about how long it will take them, they'll just be like, no, don't have time for that. There's a couple of other, they can opt in or they can opt out. It's completely consensual. Reassure them that their information will not be identified. In the video that I will share with you, there's much more practical tips there about how to make sure that you can de-identify the data. If you're asking questions on Facebook or Instagram, they're usually just like really short and sharp. And if you do get sort of like that identifying data, you just make sure that you don't share that on with anybody else, and be clear about how the data is being used and by whom. So you set that up when you send out the invitation to participate. Focus groups. Okay. This is great for qualitative data. Like if you've got like a bigger, broader issue that you want people's experience and feedback on, this is a great way to do it because you can gain new insights and you can make more educated, predictions or like assumptions. We want to avoid assumptions, but you can make more educated predictions about things. There are a few drawbacks there, which I've listed. They can be time consuming and difficult, and sometimes you get all of this great response and then nobody shows up on the day. But that's not to discourage you from doing it, because if you get the right people in the room, this can actually be a super, super powerful tool to come up with really great strategies that you can implement later on that benefit students and are useful to students because you've got such good qualitative data in the first place. And yes, Zoom is a great place to do virtual focus groups. Student forums. So as you can see that's a much bigger group of students that you're sort of canvassing. They're designed to bring a big cohort together to talk about specific issues, and can be a really great way for you to hear more broadly what students are thinking. Maybe you'll be able to hear from students that are outside of your network so that you wouldn't normally be able to talk to. That information can then just be taken to be distilled and spoken through and discussed at the next committee meeting. And SSP can help you organise events like these. Some of the faculties are really onto this type of engagement and are really good at it. So there are people that can support you if this is something that you think would be good for your issue or whatever it is that you are trying to get the student voice on. Okay, so once you've done all of those things, it's really important to learn how to triangulate the feedback and look for the common story or theme that is linking all of these things together. So this, again, sorry to repeat myself, will be talked about really specifically in the video that I'm going to link to you right now, which is called Eliciting and Analyzing Student Feedback. If you want to just grab it and get it into your YouTube on your phone right now, scan that code so that it will bring it up for you. Otherwise, we will share the link for it in the chat as well. That video, it's probably about an hour long, so it does go really in depth in just those topics. So if you want to know more, it's a really helpful resource, and I would recommend watching it.
There's another question in the chat, Alex. Do we have to report what students brought up the issues, or will it remain completely anonymous?
That's a really great question. And yeah, it is, anonymity is important. I would say basically if the student says, I don't want people to know that I'm asking this question, obviously it's a straight up no, you wouldn't tell them what students have brought up stuff. In a committee meeting, it's probably not super helpful to like be identifying particular students. If things progress and it's actually like, actually we want these students to be on board, the people who are saying this or experiencing this, we want to hear more from them, then that would be the time when you would say, cool, I know who they are, I'll reach out to them, see if they want to come and participate in a more involved way. And then that would probably be where you would, start to mention names. But before that, I would say, be really careful, be really, wise about how you share people's information, because if they're coming to you and being vulnerable and sharing and taking that step, then you really want to respect that and make sure that, that they can continue to trust you with that information. So I would say it's probably, not super helpful all the time to bring it up and put names to different things in the committee context. You can just say, look, I've spoken to students. If you get pushed on it and people are like, well, who are you talking to? You can say, that's not important. The fact is that a student has come to me and expressed this opinion and we need to talk about it. So you can be that sort of gatekeeper in that instance. And if it's like, something that would be better to collaborate on, bring them in. But if not, I would say, that's just between you and them. But that's a really good question. Thanks, Jack. Next, could your recommendation become a project? And this is to do with student staff partnerships. They have a project stream, which some of you will have heard of, some of you will have participated in. And basically, this is a platform that exists for students and staff to come together and collaborate on projects under these three streams of teaching and learning, student experience, governance, and strategy. There are different rounds throughout the year that you can participate in or pitch an idea for that you might want people to come in and help you to work on, to collaborate on, to create something that outlasts the project. There's I think it's a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 21 week engagement. Your group size will look probably like 2 to 4 students and 1 to 2 staff members. And big bonus, there is a grant of up to $1,500 available to students who participate in student staff partnerships. So if you've got an issue that's coming up from students around any of those issues, teaching and learning, student experience, governance and strategy, and you're like, actually, we've talked about this and there are some really practical ways that we could make it work, but there's just no process or no infrastructure for it at the moment, that could be a perfect or a really valuable thing to bring to a student staff partnership project. So if you want to know more about that, I believe we've just shared the URL in the chat. And there's, just lots of great stuff. Sometimes you might just be like, I don't actually have an idea myself, but I can see that there's lots of cool stuff happening and you can apply to be a student partner on a project that could help or benefit you in your representation space as well. Checking the time. Okay, we're gonna really move along. We're almost done. What's next? So this other beautiful QR code there is going to link you to a feedback survey to help me improve this training for next time. I'm going to email all of our attendees a copy of the slides from today so that you can refer back to them. If you would like the recording, please just send me an email here at alexcrook at uq.edu.au and I will send it through to you. You've now that we've had this training and stuff, we'll be able to send you updates and further information about opportunities and networking events and celebrations, and like the question that was asked before about how can we connect with other reps. We'll be able to send that out to you. So we're going to add you to that mailing list so you can be across that information. Also, keep an eye on Get Involved. If you're part of the Get Involved cohort, you've registered, you can see that there are lots of different opportunities that are coming up all the time, whether it's volunteering, mentoring, or rep and voice stuff. So that's just a really great way to be across the different opportunities that are coming up that you might want to be a part of, or that you can say, oh, that's happening in another part of the uni. Good to know, because that was something that I'm thinking about as well. And then this is the page that I was talking about before of the helpful contacts, which is very strangely coming up. Oops. So I've listed some helpful contacts there for each of the faculties. And then the two main ones for the union. And yes, Samara Paradine is the AAN rep for the union. And she's always happy to be contacted. So if you've got questions or interested in knowing more about that, please reach out to her. SSP, if you want to know anything more about projects or rep and voice stuff, I'm looped into that inbox as well. If you email it there, I will probably hear about it as well. Otherwise, there are your different student experience or student futures committees at the faculties. Again, if you haven't, please give me your feedback about this training. And then if we've got any other questions or anything else that you want to talk about to do with student representation and voice, please email me. I love engaging with students. I really want to see this program grow and become really integral to everything that we do here at UQ. And that means, talking with students and hearing what you've got to say. And if you've got ideas and feedback, I really want to hear it. But where are we? 102. Okay, we just made it. How good. I've seen that a couple of other questions have come up in the chat, which I'll just quickly, if you've got to go, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to quickly answer that question from Taylor. What would be, oops, it's disappearing. What would be your suggestion if you can't get your cohort to participate and give you feedback? I would say, Taylor, in that situation, your staff allies are going to be super helpful too. Actually, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so I can see people's faces. Your staff allies are going to be really helpful to you. So you can get emails out, you can get different communications out to students. And it might just be a bit of persistence, a bit of just keep on getting the word out. You may not get traction immediately, but that's probably about that awareness and communication piece that the more you do it, the more people understand what it is that you're trying to do, and that this is available to them as a resource to be able to use. They will. So my encouragement would be, don't give up. And we can maybe have an offline chat and go through a bit more of the specifics about what you're facing is, but we can do that. Also, I'm just going to end the recording. Thank you everybody so much for your participation, for being here, for your awesome questions. And we hope to see you again soon. Is there any more questions? Where could we find the recording? Chris, I will, if you send me an email, I'll email it to you. It's going to be uploaded to the cloud and take a little time to download. But I can definitely email you a copy of the recording. No worries. How can we find out who's on our committee? Josie, I would definitely, so if you're on a committee, obviously you would have, been recruited by somebody. So if you're not sure even who your secretary is, reach out to the person who recruited you and ask them for an introduction. So that would be probably where I would say start. And faculty coordinator, definitely. If you know that person, you have a relationship with them already, reach out to them, ask them those questions, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. No worries. Thank you for that question. Can we work together with the reps of same faculty? Absolutely, you can. That would be something that we're looking to get people more connected when we have the student reps community of practice which we're hoping to get more events happening in that space really soon. But I would 100% encourage you to work with reps in your faculty, because you're dealing with similar cohorts, right? You're in places where you're overlapping, and issues that affect you and your cohorts might be affecting them. So definitely pull your resources. You could be working together on surveys or focus groups or something like that. But yeah, 100%, the more you work together, the more minds and more experience and input that you're getting on these things, the better. But that's, yeah, great question, Prashik. Definitely work together with the other reps. Yeah. Very cool. These are great questions. Thanks, everyone. How are we going? Anything else? You can always reach out to me on email. But other than that, we might say goodbye. So thank you all again. Thanks for your participation in this space. So I think Emily just shared my email address before. Yeah, there it is again. Cool, no worries. Cool. Great. Well, if there's no more questions, we might end it there. And thank you, Emily, so much for all of your help with the chat and the questions and keeping everything running. Really appreciate it all. So thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be in touch soon with more info about the student rep goodness that will be coming out of this space really soon. Bye.